Right. Let's take a moment to really consider what happened here, because this wasn't just another headline or a fleeting controversy. This was a moment that forced the entire country to confront its values, its fears, and its deep divisions. Let's talk about free speech. It's a phrase we hear all the time, but rarely do we stop to think about what it actually means in practice, especially when emotions are running high and the stakes feel personal. In America, free speech is more than a right. It's a cornerstone of our identity, a promise that every voice, no matter how controversial, has a place in the public square. It all started with a tragedy. On September 10, 2025, conservative activist Charlie Kirk was killed at Utah Valley University. The news sent shockwaves through the nation, sparking grief, anger, and a desperate search for answers. The campus, once a place of learning and debate, became the epicenter of a national crisis, with police tape and flashing lights replacing the usual bustle of student life. Days later, Jimmy Kimmel delivered a monologue that ignited a national firestorm. It wasn't just another late-night joke, it was a pointed commentary on the political climate, the media frenzy, and the way tragedy gets twisted for partisan gain. Kimmel's words echoed far beyond the studio, reaching millions of viewers and instantly becoming the focal point of a heated debate. Kimmel joked about the political spin around the accused shooter, Tyler Robinson, poking at the MAGA crowd's attempts to distance themselves. He didn't hold back, using humor as a scalpel to cut through the noise and expose the hypocrisy he saw in the public response. For some, it was a necessary critique. For others, it was a step too far. Was it in poor taste? Maybe. Was it inaccurate? Possibly. But comedy has always walked a fine line between provocation and offense, and Kimmel's monologue was no exception. The audience's reaction was split. Some laughed, some cringed, and some were left speechless, unsure how to process humor in the face of tragedy. But should it have triggered a national crisis? Absolutely not. In a healthier climate, it might have sparked a tough conversation or even been shrugged off as just another late-night bit. Instead, it became a lightning rod for outrage, a symbol of everything people felt was wrong with the country. Yet, in 2025, outrage is the only currency that matters. Social media platforms lit up with hashtags, hot takes, and viral clips. Everyone had an opinion, and everyone wanted to be heard. The digital mob moved quickly, amplifying every slight and demanding accountability in real time. The backlash wasn't just noise, it was a coordinated effort to silence Kimmel, framing his joke as a malicious attack. Newsrooms scrambled to cover every angle, while activists and pundits seized the moment to push their own agendas. The story grew bigger than the joke itself, morphing into a referendum on the limits of speech and the power of public outrage. Right-wing media demanded ABC take action, and the machinery of outrage roared to life. Calls for boycotts, advertiser pullouts, and even congressional hearings filled the airwaves. The pressure was relentless, and the stakes felt impossibly high, not just for Kimmel, but for anyone who dared to speak their mind on national television. Suddenly, a comedian's monologue became a test of who gets to speak and who has the power to shut them up. The late-night stage, once a place for satire and social commentary, was transformed into a battleground over the very meaning of free expression. The First Amendment was on trial, and for a moment it looked like it might lose. The debate wasn't just about one joke or one comedian, it was about the future of public discourse in America, and whether we still believe in the messy, uncomfortable freedom to speak our minds. This was more than a joke gone wrong. It was a battle over the boundaries of speech in America. In the end, the real question wasn't whether Kimmel crossed a line, it was whether we, as a nation, are willing to defend the right to speak, even when it hurts, offends, or challenges us to think differently. The backlash against Kimmel got a terrifying boost from the top. President Trump took to Truth Social, not just cheering Kimmel's suspension, but demanding a purge of other critical late-night hosts. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr threatened ABC's broadcast licenses, wielding government power as a weapon. The message, fall in line or we'll shut you down. Under this pressure, Disney suspended Jimmy Kimmel Live, calling his comments ill-timed. It wasn't about principle, it was about appeasing power. The chilling effect was immediate. Networks learned that mocking the administration could cost them everything. This wasn't just about Kimmel, it was a blow to media independence. The message was clear: step out of line and you'll be punished. As the controversy raged, one voice was missing: Joe Rogan. The internet speculated, Was he afraid to criticize Trump? Had he found his limit? The truth. Rogan was off the grid, hunting elk. When he returned, the narrative was set. Liberals defended Kimmel, conservatives cheered his suspension. Rogan, unburdened by the partisan frenzy, offered a different perspective. He wasn't there to defend Kimmel or attack Trump. He was there to defend a principle, the right to speak your mind, even if it's offensive or wrong. Rogan's absence became a metaphor. He operates outside the system, weighing in only when he's ready. His delayed response cut through the noise. Sometimes, distance brings clarity. When Rogan finally spoke, he didn't mince words. He was adamant that the government should never have the authority to police what a comedian says on stage, no matter how controversial or provocative the material might be. For him, the stage is a sacred space for challenging ideas, pushing boundaries, and sometimes even making people uncomfortable. Rogan's stance wasn't about defending the quality or taste of Kimmel's joke. Instead, he zeroed in on a much bigger issue: the inherent danger that comes with allowing government officials to decide what speech is acceptable. Once that line is crossed, it's not just comedians who are at risk. Everyone's freedom of expression is threatened. On his podcast, Rogan has built a reputation for fostering open, unrestricted conversation. He invites guests from all walks of life, often with wildly different viewpoints, and encourages honest, sometimes uncomfortable dialogue. This commitment to free expression isn't just a personal preference. It's a principle he believes should apply to everyone, even those he fundamentally disagrees with. Rogan cautioned that government censorship is a slippery slope. Once you start restricting speech, it becomes all too easy for those in power to silence dissent and control the narrative. History is filled with examples of societies that lost their freedoms, not all at once, but bit by bit, as speech was slowly curtailed. The answer to speech you dislike, Rogan argued, isn't to silence it. Instead, the solution is more speech, robust debate, open criticism, and the willingness to confront ideas head-on. That's how societies grow and evolve. By framing the issue in absolute terms, Rogan elevated the conversation beyond partisan politics. He made it clear that this isn't about left or right, or about defending a particular comedian. It's about protecting a fundamental right that underpins democracy itself. Rogan wasn't picking sides in a culture war. He was standing up for a foundational principle that has shaped American society for generations. Free speech is the bedrock of a free people. The moment you allow the government to decide what's acceptable to say, you surrender something essential: your autonomy, your voice, and your right to challenge authority. Free speech isn't a privilege granted by those in power. It's a right that belongs to every individual, regardless of their views or how popular their opinions may be. And that right must be defended, even when the jokes fall flat or the opinions are unpopular. Because once we start making exceptions, we risk losing the very freedom that allows us to speak our minds in the first place. Rogan's sharpest warning was directed at conservatives who found themselves celebrating Kimmel's suspension, thinking it was a win for their side. He cautioned that this kind of short-term satisfaction could have long-term consequences that many fail to see in the heat of the moment. "You're crazy for supporting this," he said, emphasizing that cheering for censorship, even when it targets your opponents, sets a dangerous precedent, because this will be used on you. Rogan's words were a stark reminder that the tools you use against others can, and often will, be turned against you when the tides shift. Censorship is a weapon that always swings back, regardless of who wields it first. History is filled with examples of those who cheered for silencing their rivals, only to find themselves silenced when the balance of power changed. Today's victory is tomorrow's trap. Power shifts, and the precedent you set will be used against you. What feels like justice now can quickly become injustice when the roles are reversed. Rogan's humor, joking about globalist lizard people, underscored a serious point. Once you allow censorship, its definition can be twisted to fit any agenda. What starts as a joke can quickly become a tool for silencing dissent, no matter who is in charge. Supporting free speech only for your side isn't real support at all. True commitment to free expression means defending it even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's for those you disagree with most. The real test is defending it for those you can't stand. It's easy to support speech you like, but the principle matters most when it protects voices you'd rather not hear. Rogan challenged his audience to rise above partisanship and protect the principle that protects them. He urged listeners to recognize that free speech is not a partisan issue, but a fundamental right that safeguards everyone. Free speech is universal, or it's nothing. If it's only for some, it's not truly free. The moment we start making exceptions, we risk losing the very foundation of open society. Defend it for everyone, or risk losing it yourself. The future of free expression depends on our willingness to stand up for it, even when it's difficult. Rogan also marveled at the absurdity of the president feuding with a late-night host. "Isn't he running the world?" Rogan quipped, highlighting the surreal priorities at play. The presidency, once above celebrity drama, now seemed entangled in it. A president with nuclear codes was spending his time tweeting about a comedian. It's silly, and deeply concerning. When the president targets a private citizen, it's not a fair fight. Rogan's common sense cut through the noise. This was a misuse of power and a distraction from real governance. Rogan nailed the irony. The campaign to silence Kimmel only made him bigger. The Streisand effect kicked in. Efforts to suppress the monologue turned it into a national event. Kimmel became a symbol of resistance, his audience swelling as people tuned in to see what the fuss was about. The attempt to crush him only amplified his voice. In the digital age, outrage can't erase a conversation, it only spreads it further. Kimmel's return became must-see TV, his brand stronger than ever. The outrage machine failed to silence, it only amplified. Rogan understood. Controversy is currency. The effort to make Kimmel smaller made him a giant. Sometimes trying to silence someone is the best way to make them heard. As Rogan's podcast dropped, Kimmel's saga reached its next act. ABC, under massive public pressure, reinstated Jimmy Kimmel Live. The creative community rallied. Celebrities, even Obama, condemned the suspension. Kimmel's return was framed as a fight for creative freedom, not just a personal win. But the scars remained. Two major station owners, Nexstar and Sinclair, continued to boycott the show. In several states, Kimmel stayed off the air, his reach limited by local politics. The media landscape fractured. Access to national programs now depended on who owned your local station. The battle wasn't over. The shadow of censorship lingered. Kimmel's return was a victory, but the threat to free speech was far from gone. The fight for open airwaves continues. The Kimmel-Rogan-Trump affair is a lesson in the fragility of free speech. It starts with an offensive joke, escalates with government pressure, and ends with chilling effects, even after reversals. Rogan's stance transcended politics. Free speech must protect everyone or it protects no one. The moment you make exceptions, you dismantle the whole structure. The ongoing boycotts show how media is becoming siloed, access determined by ownership and ideology. The national town square is breaking into walled-off clubhouses. Rogan's blunt warning, the right to tell a bad joke is as vital as any other right. The battle for free speech is never really over, and it's everyone's fight.